women rule the world. I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Oh, here we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Jess will be here momentarily.
I was just about to fix my little powdering here on my face. 'Cause I'm looking a little shiny, but you know.
You're just our shining star. That's all. No worries. We love it. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited for this next hour. Each hour is just it's just they're all, I can't say they're better and better because they're all amazing. It's amazing. Hi, John Music. Thank you so much for joining us. And I see Gemma Jade in the audience as well. She'll be joining us as well. But all of the women that we just had on were incredible, and we have more incredible women, right?
Amazing. I'm just like, Jess's mind is kind of blown. So let's get into another one.
All right. So next we are going to be talking about government programs and Black Ops, my favorite. We have some amazing women. So let's bring them on. Let's not waste any time. We have the beautiful and gorgeous and everyone on here. Everyone SOR knows and loves her, Miss Samantha Mowat. Hi, Sam. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Very fun.
You. I love chatting with you. You know I can do it all day long.
Hopefully light things, right? Not scary things.
It depends. You never know. They're all kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Russ, for that as well.
I love
All right,
Russ.
and next we have the beautiful Laureen Fenton. Thank you, Laureen, for joining us. I'm so
Hey
excited
there.
to talk
Can you
with
guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. I got a new headset and I never knew if it was working or not. So here we go.
There you go. Here's the test. You are here and we can hear you. And can you hear us okay? Everything working?
Yeah,
well?
everything's great at my end.
Beautiful.
Hey,
We have Miesha Johnston, who's going to be joining us as well. I don't know if Miesha, if you can hear me, saying your devices are not connected, so you might need to go out and come back in, but we will get Miesha on as soon as we can. But welcome. I'm so glad to have you both here. This is going to be a fun talk. Well, fun for me, not fun for everybody, but
Lynn's been excited for this one.
oh my gosh. They both know. I've already chatted with both of them about this a million times. So it's no surprise to them. So let's just get right into it. So government programs, Black Ops. So the three of you, as Miesha, as soon as she can join us, you know, you all are well versed in this subject. And so I have a question for you, since we're talking about women here. We often hear of men being involved in Black Ops or being a super soldier or being involved in any number of like government programs. Do you feel there is just as many women involved? And if so, like, how come we don't hear about it so often from women?
Samantha, you want to go first?
I was letting you go first, Lauren.
That's okay. I'll go first then. I'm going to tell you something. If there is a program out there and we're all involved in it, the women are running it. Okay, I know that for a fact because the men couldn't pull this off. This is so diabolical. It takes a woman's mind to be able to handle it. Seriously, and I'm not kidding. I really mean that because
I
I've
agree.
talked to Miesha. Yeah, I've talked to Miesha about this a million times. There she is. Here's the deal, guys. Oh, I'm hearing an echo.
I'm getting an echo too.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, I'll mute you, Miesha. Just let me know when you're finished.
There we go. Okay, so here's the problem. Every woman I've talked to that's deeply involved in any kind of the secret space program, super soldier program, government coercion and control, mind control, you guys, it goes on and on, the satanic ritual abuse that's happening, Hollywood, everything. Okay, I'm just going to throw it all into one bag. There is some woman behind some scuzzy guy making it happen, okay, in the dark side of it. And then on the ET side of everything, or how we're connecting with them, the women on this planet are actually the people that are holding the energy, holding the place, holding the everything that's going on. The men, I think, I'm sorry to say this, and I don't mean to be men bashing here, but they really are good at following orders. They're really good at it. They look to the women in these programs to run it for them. I mean, I know that Miesha on one level is running the schools with the ETs and doing lots of things on another dimension. I know that I've been dealing with the super soldiers on a dimension that is where I'm actually in the same operations as Miesha. And that's all I'm going to say about it right now, because it's such a convoluted and hard thing to grasp for most people, that we're actually functioning on many dimensional levels at the same time. And if the ETs have you, you are brought into a program that you can either get connected up with military on some level, or you are working with the ETs on some level, or you're working in the space program on some level, or you're working interdimensionally on some level, you're in a remote viewing program on some level. There's something for you in every case. It's like, it's like the candy store. They bring you in, they go, okay, you've had ET contact, so here, this is where we're going to plug you in. If that doesn't work, we'll plug you in somewhere else. And then they use you until it's all over. Do you agree, Miesha?
You muted.
I do agree. Yes, I do agree. With the people I work with in the hypnosis and such, I find that there's so many different programs that they will use them in, just as you said. And some of them even positive experiences. So positive things will happen. So people are working with rescuing trafficked kids, or helping planets, get, like first responders and such. And it's so many different things. It's very, very hard to figure out what the heck is going on.
I fully agree with you about that. It's interesting because when Lauren was talking about the aspect of who's behind the scenes and running things, out of all the people that I've encountered with my Black Op handlers and in the programs, I do find that typically I do have men being the ones that are directly above me and telling me what to do. But when I thought about these gentlemen, it's not that they're not intelligent. It's just I don't think they're as diabolical as we want to perceive them to be. I do agree that they're the face in front of the organization, even though they aren't necessarily leading it. So I'm really glad you started off that, Lorien. I think it's important and not talked about very often.
I missed the question, but it must have had something to do with men, I take it.
Well, Lorien kind of brought us there, Miesha, you know how I do that.
But yes, they are often the handlers. Often they are the handlers. And they also are mind controlled and programmed in, even if, even if you have handlers that don't even know that they're handlers.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I found interesting, and this is when I had a big realization, was that there was a woman biochemist that was in Iran, and she was the mother of all the biological horrible things that are being done to people in war. The gases, I don't even want to go into it, but it was really important for me to understand that this was in the 90s. And I realized they finally found this woman, they brought her to justice, what have you. But this is a woman behind this whole, a scientist woman behind all this. It's like a female Joseph Mengele, and but in the bioengineering killing of people in regular war. And I thought to myself, man, when women go bad, it's really ugly. When men go bad, it's kind of like, well, okay, they can turn into Hitler, but they're always kind of being controlled from other people around them. Women have a focus that is really diabolical, and when they go bad, man, look out. It's not a good thing. And I wonder, and I don't know about you, Miesha and Samantha, but I always wonder if there isn't some kind of women's council or type of group of evil, maybe reptilians. I don't know I don't know if I want to call them evil. I just call them diabolical.
Say, Lorien, be nice to the reptilians while I'm around.
I know. There are good reptilians. I've hugged one, so there you go. But I don't know, and I'm wondering if Miesha and Samantha ever have had to deal with any of that kind of female dark energy when they're dealing with the military.
Not a lot for me when it comes to the female dark energy. Typically, I do deal more with men, unfortunately, but I have wondered in regards to some of the breeding programs that we have within the Black Op situations, how they will, especially if they find out the ETs are breeding you, they will take your DNA and they will have you bred with certain soldiers and with certain personnel and things of that nature, and kind of extort you that way as well as extorting you sexually. I was wondering if it's a woman behind it because they realize how good sex is at keeping the male soldiers in line, as well as using it as a form of leverage. So I have wondered in the past if there is a female component behind that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Miesha, have you ever had any of that? Because I haven't, but my mind always seems to end up there when I'm thinking about this topic. I always think, God, these guys just can't be doing this by themselves. They just don't have the capability.
Well, that's true. I'm trying to think about that. I myself have not, during some of the hypnosis sessions with the super soldiers. The women are bad, shall we say, very, very much, and they really get into their work, shall we say, in the mind
Yeah.
control and the ultra, the beta slave, and things like that. Of course, we're talking alters here. We're talking people who have already had their psychic splintered and that they are into alters. So can't say exactly for that. I can't really answer.
I have a question for all of you. So in the last session, we were talking about alternate bodies or maybe clones. And so there were some people in the chat who were wondering, have you guys heard of that or encountered that in sort of the government program Black Ops kind of world?
Well,
absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Sam. I'll go after you.
Oh, it's all good. I was just going to say they do have a form of clones of many of us, especially if we're going through breeding and when it comes to the replication of genetic material in particular. With the people that I have as clients who've gone through Black Op programming, a lot of them, if they go in more the super soldier capacity, if they have part of their body blown off, sometimes they'll be taken out of one body, their soul, and then transferred into another body vessel. And as to how they do that, I have no idea. But that does seem to be a common theme that I've noticed with my clients. I don't know about you guys.
I have noticed that very much so, that they have replaced body parts or they put them in a whole clone. A particular one time that really told me the whole thing, there was a fellow in a super soldier where he was there with the Greys. The next thing he knows, there's something that's done. I think he either put something over his face, and then the next thing he knows, he is in a augmented clone body that has has been a weapon. It's a weapon and things like that. So the clone is very, and it's not just the super soldiers. I will tell you that we who have been in the program at all probably have clones. In fact, maybe clones may be everywhere. Actually, I think clone is a very big thing. It's a big thing in the politics for sure. It's in politicians. We're seeing clone politicians and queens and all of this type of thing. So I believe that they're using this. There's clone, shall we say, labs everywhere, on planet and off planet. And the clones that I have had encounter with I'll put it this way. If people tell you that you've been in another part of the country and you're speaking at a conference and they're saying you're at another conference that they saw you there, what kind of answer is that? I asked Randy Kramer and he said, yeah, you have some clones. He checked on it. So yeah, any of us who've been in program have clones, more than likely.
And here's an interesting twist to it that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Just imagine this, everyone. The ETs can make hybrids of us. The ETs can pull us through a wall. The ETs can take us to another dimensional space, and which is their ship, because their ship may not be in this dimension at the time you're on it. Okay, I mean, there's so many variables we don't know about because their science is millennia above ours. Okay, they can with their mind, they can move an atom across the universe. Okay, that's how much power they have. So do you think that they can't make a clone and with just a thought? There's a great story that I tell people in my presentation about I can't remember his name right now. A guy that used to work at Area 51 as a scientist goes down to South America and meets an alien there. And he has a little loaf of what he called silver bread. And basically, and the alien told the scientist, I'm going to go put this out in the field and I'm going to think it into a UFO, because that's how small their ships can be, and they're made out of a different molecular structure than ours completely. And I'm starting to be vindicated on a lot of these stories I've told over the years, because people like Gary Noland have taken an electron microscope and looked at the fragments of the ships that they had over at the lab in Stanford and found out that the molecular structure is completely different than our molecular structure here on this planet. The electrons, neutrons, protons are all moving at different rates, different speeds, and different distances from each other. And that can't even supposedly happen in our universe. I mean, in our planet, in our 3D reality. So back to that loaf of bread, the alien walks away, turns it into a spaceship, a 50-foot wide spaceship that you can walk right into. And then he tells the scientist, you go do it now. You know, he shrinks it back down, and the scientist is like, whoa. And then he thinks it into this weird shape because he can't quite get it yet. But that's what the alien was teaching him. It was teaching him that they do it all through frequency, molecular structure, and it's on such a it's so far beyond what we know about and can even think about. And I'm going to say one more thing really quickly here. I have a very good friend named Tron, and most people that have listened to my radio show know about Tron. Tron is a contactee and a scientist, and he has told me the story about meeting his gray alien who had fly eyeballs underneath the black in front of the eyeball. The structure is like a fly's eye. And then within each one of those little structures, they're connected to a brain through an optical nerve. And that gray alien standing in front of every one of us who are on this show today has something like, 87 brains, little tiny brains inside that all connect like a neural network. And they can function at a level that we can only do between logic and creativity. That's all we've got is two sides. They've got, thousands of sides, and it's exponential. Okay. So anyhow, I'm just throwing that out. Science is starting to catch up with the ET contactees, and the military wants to know what we all know because they want to figure this out as fast as they can too, so they can compete with the aliens. I believe on some level. So anyhow, just throwing that out.
I fully agree about that, especially when you look at the amount of times you'll have a really intense ET experience, whether it's a physical one or an astral one, and you'll be put back, and then a couple hours later, or most, like even like 15 minutes later, in some cases, you find that you're getting abducted by black ops, taking you and putting you in an interrogation room, asking you, what did you learn? Who did you see? What did they look like? How long were you gone for? Show me exactly what you did. And they will interrogate you for hours, and it's often better to just be cooperative with them and tell them what they want to know, instead of getting zapped and having electrocution going through your body, or being beaten or raped. And I think people who look at these programs who aren't going through it, they don't understand why people like yourself or Miesha or myself would choose to be in somewhat of a willing capacity to share this information with black ops, not realizing the repercussions if we don't do that.
Miesha, I think that's yours next. Because you've been through this, the story about you and Melinda and the base and the reptilians and what they do to you. I think the audience needs to know about this.
Oh, well, I've had several encounters with the underground bases. And you're right, it seems to come right after you have an experience. Either it's that night or another day after or so. And then you're taken in next, you're in a room and you're being interrogated. And I want to mention, if I ask you, if you feel that it's like lieutenant, let me see, colonels and generals, not lieutenant, lieutenant colonel, colonels and generals seem to be the ones that are doing the interrogation. So I believe that from lower places on, they don't know. They could be the same military that we know about, but I believe the upper ones know about it, whereas the lower ranks do not know. And so they'll look at us, they don't believe us. But I truly believe that this happens. Now, as specifically as she was talking about with that, it's a long story, so I'm just going to say that we were taken out of my condo, taken and put in a bus, taken to an underground base, interrogated. And when he wasn't happy with what he was getting from me, because I really didn't know, well, what it was a warning. Stop going and speaking at conference, stop being a radio show, because I'd been on the Art Bell with George Siegel. And he said, this is it. You've been warned over and over and over. And they get really angry at you and they want to show you something that scares you. So we brought in a different type of reptilian that I had encountered. And this one was bigger, had a tail. The other ones, I did not see tails. It had a more of a different, more of a dragon looking face versus the other ones had more of an alligator, shall we say, look to them. I mean, and I don't mean a big alligator, more like a lizard look to them. But this one, he came and walked over, looked in my eyes, and showed me this holographic imagery that my family was being killed in front of me. And the same thing happened to Melinda, only a different kind of thing, you know. And so it's terrible what they're doing to to what we call the MILABs, military laboratory or military reabduction. You can put it either way. And then there's the other one. I can't remember what the other one that
Miesha, tell the audience about what that reptilian did to you. I think that's the most important piece here. Is and you realized he was. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Which reptilian? You're talking about the
one in the underground base with Melinda.
Well, I already told you. He did put me in a holographic screen, a holographic room, and then I watched my family be murdered in front of me.
There you go.
What's interesting is he wasn't the murderer. It was men in black ninja uniforms that just came from nowhere with big bayonets and sliced up my family in front of me. So, and it was the last warning I got to stop talking about the government's connection to it. And I did actually quit for 9 years, but Melinda kept going.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, good for her. And good for you too, Miesha, for coming back out.
Yeah, I did. I stopped for 9 years, but then I came back out very strong now. Very, very strong. They aren't stopping me this time.
And we got to realize something in Miesha's story, which she didn't say right now, was the fact that her family was screaming and she couldn't, either she couldn't hear it or something was, it clued her to the fact that this was a fake reality. Okay. And then she came out of it and realized they couldn't control her.
Right. It was, is this real or Memorex? That was the thought that came in my head, and it stopped it. Shows us how much power we even have.
You know, for me, I think just listening to this, it's difficult to say like, oh, so we've had, so the reptilians or there's other beings that are working currently and have been with our government and our military. I think for me that's where I'm kind of going like, whoa.
Well, Jess, one thing that I think you should really be aware of is there's a lot of different groups that are working with our government and also governments around the world. There seems to be different ET groups invested within having certain government power structures and playing in more of a ruling capacity. And that's one thing that isn't really well talked about. How there's also some humanoid ETs that are working specifically with our governments who don't necessarily like the humans down here, that do view them as lesser. Even when it comes to the Greys, it's the tall Greys and the small Greys that are working with the Canadian and the American military. Because one thing I've found is that the Canadian and Americans seem to have very similar Black Op programs. And some of my friends who live in the States, I live in Canada, of course, we seem to have MILAB abductions together. So they seem to be working beyond just the borders and countries, which is not really well discussed or well known at this time, at least not in my opinion.
Wow. No, I find it all very interesting because this is I don't know if I don't know a lot about this world. So for me, hearing about these different things is expanding my worldview. So I'm very interested to hear more.
Jess, the reason you don't know about it is because, and I know Miesha and Sam will agree with me totally on this, is that they don't allow us to talk about it very often, and you get tortured, you get there's a lot of things that happen, but they happen on such a weird level that even somebody sitting next to you may not even realize what's happening to you. And it's so subtle, and it can be so overt at the same time. And they and I'll tell you, and here's another analogy, another thing that happened to me. I saw I saw a triangle craft of three balls of lights in the sky into a triangle craft when I was down in 2011, when I had a major experience weekend. Okay. And 3 years later, I'm still trying to remember that craft. Every day I wake up and I want to remember to tell people the story correctly. I want to have the facts straight. And one day I woke up and I couldn't remember it. And I thought to myself, oh, this is so bizarre. I know something's been taken out of my memory. I knew it. And so I finally, about 6 hours later, the memory popped back into my head. So I drew a picture of the craft. I put it by the bed. For 6 months, every couple days, they take the memory out. They didn't want me to remember that whole weekend. So they were starting with that. But turns out they were actually giving me a class, a lesson. The lesson was this, and they finally let me remember it. Okay. But they kept taking it away and taking it away. And then finally I kept it there and I started fighting with them. And I said, don't do this to me anymore. And they said, the reason we're doing this is we want you to understand this is what we do to everybody else. We can wipe your memory in a heartbeat and you will not remember anything that happened to you. The only thing that's left over is the residual training that we've done to you, or the fear we've put in you, or the do not talk to anybody that we've implanted in you. It's just like our CIA. They like what they did to Kathy O'Brien. By the way, her movie Trance.movie. Go to trance.movie and watch this movie. It'll blow your mind. But anyhow, our government does this to people on a regular basis through Manchurian mind control, or whatever you want to call it, which is just another form of what the aliens do to us. But they are so powerful. And this is another problem we've got. They're so powerful that unless they're actually working with you and keeping you abreast of everything that's happening to you, they can just wipe out your memories in a heartbeat, and you will never know. You go through your whole life living in the matrix and not even understand what's happening to you. And that you may be fulfilling their evil agenda and not even know you're doing it. And this is, we don't talk about this in the community often. I try to bring it up. I had 3 mind control conferences, and I started getting tortured for having those conferences. I had to stop doing them. It's just that simple. But at every chance that I can, I try to get Miesha's story out, Melinda's story, Samantha's story now that she's having issues. I try to bring that up, not talking about the people themselves, but as much as I can on my radio show, I try to tell their little stories, just so people can start waking up to the fact that this is really important to understand, that they can control our minds at a drop of a pin, and we will never know what happened to us. This is super important.
I fully agree. And I don't know about you two, but I find I have a lot of memory problems and entire sections of my life where I go through blank periods. And whenever I have my ET encounters or even Black Op encounters, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning or after I have one in the middle of the day, I will grab my phone, go straight to my audio recorder, because I don't trust me to be able to write it out fast enough or draw it out. And I sure don't trust my memory. And I'm looking at hundreds of audio encounters, and I'm trying to transcribe them all to finish them out for my book. And I'm listening to my own voice talk about it. I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't remember this. And I'm realizing that's how good their technology is. They're incredible at what they're doing. So I think a lot of us develop Alzheimer's or dementia with time because of how many times we have had our memories erased and modified.
I had a question for you guys as well. So I don't know if you've experienced this. I'm sure you have. I'm just saying that as to phrase it as a question. But whenever I talk about my experiences that are involving the government, or say the secret space program, or anything involving the government, not necessarily ET, though we know that there is ET involvement as well. I find people have a harder time accepting that than they do ET experiences. Have you come across that as well?
Absolutely, 100%. With the whole thing about, I would like to just mention something about the other. So when we're in the theta state, like hypnosis state, we come out and we can have those memories of what happened. it seems like the wipe that they did doesn't work for just that little bit. And if you can get, this is so important for people to have journals, and speaking is a very good way. Writing is a wonderful way too. But when you come out to get those memories, speak out what happened. And you, like you said, I go back through my journals on my phone, and I go, what? I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely true. So I was so wanting to answer that I forgot the question. But
do you find people have a harder time believing your government experiences than they do your ET experiences?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, for myself, I didn't believe it. No way. I had 16 regressions before I even hit on the MyLab and the MK Ultra stuff. My ET experiences would flow out of me, but and with people in my sessions, the ET stuff will flow out of them. But then it comes to my lab, it comes to the MK Ultra. That's where the blocks, and that's where you have to work through to help them get through those.
And one thing I want to mention is if you're going to work on them, make sure you go to someone who understands what these are. You can't go to your regular uneducated therapist about ufology or MyLabs or any of this, or they're going to trigger you, and it could bring out some suicide programming, alcohol programming, drug abuse programming, self-destruction programming, I believe it's called. And I don't want to see you go through that. So please find someone like Miesha or like Mary Rodwell who can help you go through these in a safe manner. It's very important.
Absolutely. And Ange brings up a good point. And I know I've talked with, I think, all of you at this point about this that I've been dealing with as well. She says memories can make you violently ill. They affect your body and your mind, hence PTSD.
Absolutely. That is why it's very important with you're working with somebody that they heal those, whatever method they use, they cut the cords, they cancel the contracts, they heal those things. You're not going to be able to heal everything all at once. You're going to have to do it in sections, but it's very important that you don't just leave. Like with a past life, you can pull up the memory and that's it. Okay, people have the information now. But with this, when you're working with this delicacy of this, you have to make sure that the person has cleared it, and they better feel light and happy about it. About their session, because if they're feeling awful, I've had so many people tell me that they had regression and they were sick, they were emotionally sick and physically sick. Oh yeah, it's very important. This is not anything to mess around with.
No, especially if your memories come back in your dream state, which I don't know about you guys, but I find quite often I will just go to bed and then I'll have memories, like my repressed memories, coming forward, and no, it didn't happen that night, but it could have happened a year ago or 20 years ago. And it's enough to sometimes make you can be violently ill, but you can even wake up, be like, yeah, I want to have a drink at like 8 o'clock in the morning because, oh my God, that was really intense to think about and to go through.
Absolutely.
And it those just keep coming and coming and coming, and the reason they are coming is because you're ready, your psyche is ready to find answers.
Yeah, there's a whole side to this where people just really don't want to go there, because if it's true, can you imagine if everybody on this planet actually could understand the dark side of this evil earth, I call it right now? I mean, we're living through times that are just unprecedented. And still people are just asleep, like, who cares, And I'm telling you, I have a great example of this. Many years ago, my sister said something to me about Al Qaeda or ISIS or something, and she goes, "Oh, I just don't understand. We should help these people, And I looked at her and I said, "What you don't understand is they hate you, and they are programmed to hate you from birth, and they'll cut your head off before they will decide that you're worth their time." I said, and she couldn't grasp it. And it's hard to get people to understand that there's evil out there. I mean, you guys, we're at the point now where evil is battling good, and we've got to do something about it. People have got to start standing up for what they believe in, and stop watching the damn TV and get out there and do something about it. We've got to get these politicians being taken to task. Anyhow, I didn't want to get off subject, but it's really the same thing. I mean, these people that are perpetrating the evil upon all of us in the My Labs community, or the Super Soldier Secret Space Program, or whatever we got scripted into without our consent, by the way, you know, we've been battling that evil our whole life, our whole freaking life.
Yeah.
And
nobody
even for
wants to
multiple
believe
lives.
it.
I agree. They follow us like next incarnation, Lorien. If this is still going on, you're going to go through the same thing. Same with you, Miesha. Same with the rest of us. We're all going to still, because they follow our souls, our vibrational frequency. They have that ET technology and capability now, and they have ETs working with them to track when we're going to be incarnated. And people don't realize that component to it too. They think, oh, if I just kill myself, it's all going to stop. Well, no, you'll just forget everything you know now.
That's like people trying to run all over the planet, trying to get away from the voice to skull communication. I've had so many people contact me and say, I moved to South America, I went to Spain, I did this, I did that. And I'm like, yeah, but they're global. So, you know, there's nothing you can do about it. Sorry. You know, what a waste of moving money, right?
Yeah.
And one quick thing about the whole thing that's going on right now. There are many of us that are awake. There are many of us that have been in the program that understand that this is our time. This is our battle. This is the moment. We at this point, it may be on a mundane level with like the Ukraine and the vaccines and, you know, all the stuff that's going on, the mandates and all that. It may be at that level, but think about this. Those of us who have been involved in the My Labs community, and we're in the Super Soldier programs and all these things, this is our moment to shine because we've lived this our whole life. So now we can help people on a more mundane level get through it. We don't have to bring up our ET encounters or you know, the dark guys, but we can help them. We can help them get to the point where we all were at, you know, 20 years ago, you know, and we just have to do it with love and understanding and just helping them get their eyes open that there's something they can do. And that one thing they can do is never be in fear. And always do everything from love. And if you do that and we all keep on that path, we're going to beat these guys. But you've got to, you know, you got to believe in something bigger than yourself. And you got to understand that everybody else out there that's on the same level is doing the same thing. You know, I'll never forget the day that I realized that all they can do is kill me. And then I'll be back bigger and stronger than ever. And I'll still be battling them, you know, and I've never been afraid since that moment. And I got to thank Miesha and Melinda for that moment because they sat me down at a bar in Las Vegas and said, by the way, you're part of the program. And I had been in denial for my whole life. And it took that moment for it to come out. So there you go. Thanks, Miesha.
Good friends.
I have a question too for, oh, sorry, Miesha, hold on. Go on.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have a question. So for people that are like wondering maybe if they are involved with these programs, one, what can they do to start looking into that to figure that out? And two, I think a lot of people, especially when they start realizing, yes, you are a part of this program, and yes, you probably have done some very bad things. How do they deal with that? Either the guilt or the shame or even the fear around what is it that I have done? Like, what is the advice that you would offer them?
Oh, there's a lot of it. Yeah. I would honestly recommend, if you suspect you're in the programs, I want you to honestly watch movies like, oh goodness, what's that one with Tom Cruise? Eyes Wide Shut is a good one to look at the programming aspect, especially in regards to sexual programming, satanic ritual abuse, which is very common. It's a good way to start to recognize, hey, have I been involved in this side of programming? As well as if someone were to feel like they've been an assassin or feel really drawn towards espionage, then watch an espionage movie, or in fact, watch several of them and see how you react. Do you instinctually kind of know what they're going to do? Do you know how to react in those situations? Because that could be your baseline programming coming up to your subconscious mind. Granted, as Lorien touched on earlier, there's so many different areas of programming, but don't hate yourself for what you've done. You did it in an altered state. You can't be held really accountable for that, in the same way that it's your commands that are being placed upon you, things you'd never agree to. Miesha touched so beautifully upon altars earlier, and how the altered mind can be put into do different actions or tasks that it wouldn't necessarily agree to. And I think that was really important that she brought up.
I don't know about you two, but I've had to forgive myself. I think that was the biggest. And Miesha knows this. I've never done hypnosis. I've never done anything, and the reason why is because I know deep in my heart that I've done something. I've done many things, and I don't want to know. And I'll tell you, I don't want to know because I have compartmentalized my life to the point where I can function as a normal human being on this planet, somewhat. I mean, as normal as Lorien could ever get, right? But I have a job, I have a life, I produce conferences. Speaking of, I just got to throw a quick plug in UFOcon2022.com. Check it out. Miesha's going to be speaking there, and I'm so excited to have her. And it's going to be great. It's in 1 month from last night at 6 o'clock. So I hope you guys can make it. UFOcon2022.com. Okay, got to throw that in. But the bottom line here is you know it deep in your soul, you know it. And someday I will let Miesha hypnotize me. I will. But right now I'm functioning just fine. I'm happy. I'm actually happy. For the first time in my life, when I first acknowledged the fact that this is all going on in 2009, when I almost died, I realized that, you know what, I've got to forgive myself for everything I've done. I don't have to stare it in the face right now because it's not time, because I have to be a leader in the community. For some reason, I was thrust right to the top of the heap as somebody people were looking up to get answers from. And so for me, hypnosis was not the thing at the time. Okay. But you do have to forgive yourself on many levels. And I don't know, Miesha, is that part of your work? Do you have people start working on that immediately?
Well, first of all, I have to know that what happened to them is real, and so they need to talk to people. They need to hear other people's experiences. And I mean, I'm going to give a plug too, because I do support groups for people. I have been for 8 years online, and since 1990 I've been doing these. And so these groups, you can talk to people and know what their experiences are, and they connect with what's going on with you. So then you can now find out, okay, so I'm not crazy. The next step is get yourself some help. Talk to people more. Maybe get I would say sometimes a reading is a good thing before you jump into hypnosis, because that'll help you kind of find out some answers some way, and go into hypnosis. Now, once you get in hypnosis and you find out you've had altars, remember those altars were put in, and they had to been put in probably before you were 8 years old. You want before accountability. So you are not to blame what happened in the programming, these altars, to program them to be assassins, to be couriers, to be anything, super soldiers, all of that. You're not responsible. So first, it's very easy to forgive yourself if you realize, keep remembering, they have to make the altars when you're young, so you're not responsible. And those altars that have done these horrific things, you're not responsible for them. And so forgive yourself. I had to do a lot of forgiving for myself too. And there was something else I wanted to mention about, now and I forgot. I have this stupid COVID brain. I tell you, I have to write down these notes just so you remember what I want to say. But I know what it is. Starseedawakening.org, and go to virtual realities, and that virtual support groups, and that's where you can find out about all my support groups. I have topics for every single thing that we're talking about, and then hybrids and everything, all kinds of things.
I love the idea of getting readings, but unfortunately with readings, there's something I want you to have a cautionary around. Unfortunately, readings and just like ufology, two of the biggest scam artist industries in the world. There are a lot of real people in there, but there's also a lot of frauds. Ask your angels and guides to find you the right person. If you feel like at any point the person you're seeing isn't right for you, or what they say isn't authentic, feel free to walk away from that reading. Any psychic worth their salt will let you pay them after. They won't demand the money up front. And I do recommend not only test them out, go to your friends, but try to find people that are reputable, because unfortunately I've found there's a lot of people, even on YouTube, that I look at them and I cringe with the information they're putting out there, because it's just disinformation in my opinion.
Oh God,
That's a really
Samantha,
good
you're
point.
singing my song. Go ahead,
Good.
Miesha.
That is a really good point, because
Yeah.
I have found people come to me and they've been told by some reader that they're this and they're that and they're this and they're that, and it does not show up in the regression at all. No
Oh,
sign.
interesting.
Yeah, that's true. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I have a big bugaboo, as everybody on this panel knows. I do not do well with frauds and freaks on this UFO circuit. Not at all. I'm doing battle on another whole level here, folks. It's my mission. I really believe that, to get rid of those people out of our community, because no one's doing it. And if the women don't stand up and start doing something about this, I don't know what we're going to do, because it's a men-run old boys club, Ufology. And the conferences are that way. The TV shows are that way. I mean, it's all about the guys. I'll never forget. This is a great story. I'll never forget. I'm sitting there. The phone rings. It's a production company in Hollywood. Can you recommend so and so? Blah blah blah. And all this stuff. And they're asking me to give them the names of all these people. And we want them to be under 30. And and I'm thinking. I said, well, so you don't want a big old fat old lady on there, huh? And they said, oh no, it's not that. I said, yes, it is. I said, don't tell me this. I said, I have more knowledge in my brain about your subject that you're going to present than 7 of the people that you think you're going to put up on that show that are under 30 years old. And it has nothing to do with their age. It's just that they really hadn't lived the experience. They were just getting up there to lie. And this goes on all the time. And here's the kicker, you guys, and I don't think very many of you know this. Most of these production companies, they say, oh, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. They get you there to the set. Then they hand you a bunch of statements to say, and they say, oh, can you kind of memorize this and answer the questions this way? And then you'll have to start, you're there. What are you going to do? And then they edit it out so it goes for their narrative that they're trying to portray. And in the end, it's all run by somebody who wants to put either fear into the audience or some kind of control or something going on. It's never really the truth. That's why I'm very impressed with the new movie out by Kathy O'Brien's movie, because I watched it yesterday, the first day it came out, and I was like, whoa, this is the truth, raw and unedited. And I am so thrilled that they got that movie out there. The trouble is, it's not going to be anywhere where you can find it, which is another problem. See, this is the other thing they do. They take everything off of the major media that they can. So, whatever. I'm not going to go there, but it's really important that the conferences, the YouTube channels, and the people out there talking about this subject are not lying. This is what they told me back in 2009 when I almost died. They said, you've got to get people on your radio show. You've got to get people at the conferences. You've got to get people there to tell their truth. Because once the truth starts getting out and we all start telling each other the truth, instead of hiding it, we're going to change how people feel about ufology. Disclosure has already happened for everybody who's had contact. There is no way to tell the world right now, oh, we're going to give you disclosure when we feel like it. That's BS. Everybody that has had an encounter or seen a UFO has had disclosure. It's already a done deal. So I operate at that level. And I know that Samantha does. I know that Miesha does. Because we know the truth. There's many layers and there's lots of things going on. So anyhow, that's just my take on it from that
I
perspective.
agree. But Lauren, you bring up a good point. A lot of these production companies are paid disinformation agents run by black op programs, and a lot of the normal people are unaware of that factor. You look at most of the stuff that you see, whether it's on things like X-Files or any similar shows, and there's a little bit of truth to the situation that happened that's really based on someone's experience enough that resonates vibrationally, and then they make a lot of the other parts of it disinformation to take the narrative and change it completely. So I'm really glad you brought up that portion, because I don't think it's talked about. But in regards to the age aspect, you're right. I look at who I was before I was in my 30s, and that woman did not have a good idea of how to articulate her experiences. She didn't really understand what the hell was going on. With age, we're so much wiser about it. So I wish they'd stop pushing the children and start looking at people who actually have some knowledge and information. So I'm glad you brought that up too.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
I see that point for sure. I was flown up. I got the call like you did, and it was going to talk about this show as Men K Ultra. It's a well-known show. I can't really say the name because I've got that contract I signed. And they flew me up to do the interview, and I told them my story. And the people who did interviewed were just aghast that it was a really amazing, interesting story. And then the show came on, and unless they're going to have a series when they come back after their break, all it had on it was doctors and scientists and people like that. No real encounter, no people who've had any MK Ultra. It was all that. And I thought, you don't really want our story. You want fear. You want fear. And that's what that was all about. It ended, it started negative and it ended. I was really disappointed with it. So I don't know if I want to do
And you guys, this is all, and we may be, you may think we're off topic, but we're actually on topic because the military, the CIA, all these guys are connected, and this is all part of how they're programming people to be afraid of UFOs and aliens and all this on one hand, and then on the other hand, they kind of go, well, they could be warm and fuzzy too, but that doesn't happen often. And this whole new disclosure game that they're playing with when To the Stars Academy was happening, about we need to have we need to get money to defend ourselves against the aliens. And I'm thinking, really, I think every sane person on the planet, whether they're contacted or not, thought to themselves in that moment, really, they haven't eaten us yet, and I don't think we're in trouble now. They are on another dimensional level. They are using us for, I don't know what they're using us for, you guys, but I know it may be our souls, it may be our love, it may be our connection to God. I don't know. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I agree about the whole dimensionally they're eating us. I mean, some species do eat meat, but I mean, hell, most humans eat meat, so I mean, we can't really complain. But you're talking about this, and I fully agree with you. But the part that you were saying, sorry, you're talking about. Oh God, I'm sorry, Miesha, I did the same thing you did. My brain completely forgot it. Oh, what was you talking about?
Part about the fuzzy aliens as against
yes,
because I saw you react.
No, I love that because you're talking about this, and we haven't even talked about the fact that the Black Ops also do faux abductions themselves with their fake ETs that come in and abduct people to create fear scenarios for those people to then go on the circuit and share their fear-based experiences. And that's a whole nother topic we didn't even get into yet.
I know, and that's a topic that would be amazing to get into, but we are out of time. I can't believe it. You women are just so amazing and interesting, and I love chatting with all of you. I've just been sitting back for the most part and just like, yes. It's been amazing. Thank you all so much for being here with us and sharing your insight and your experiences. They're incredible, and they're not ones that we often get to hear. So I think it's important for everyone to hear these as well. But I appreciate you coming out, supporting all the other women, and lending us your expertise. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Samantha and Miesha.
I sent big hugs.
Yes. Bye, Lynn.
Thank you, guys. All right, so let me. All right, I don't want to say bye, but I have to. I'm so sorry. Okay, everyone. They are amazing. Absolutely love them. Thank you so much, Dan.
Oh, my head from the echo, it was like driving me nuts. I was like, I can't understand what's going on. I kept pulling my headphone off.
Oh,
but it was amazing. Like, I'm learning in every single panel. I learn a little more, and then you start to tie these different things together that you're hearing throughout the different panels from different experiences and different points of view, but there's common threads you can see within all of them.
Oh, absolutely. And the more you start listening to people that have experiences, not even just women, but everyone who has experiences in all the different facets of this phenomena, because there are so many different facets, right? You do start tying it all together. Yeah, it's crazy.